You are now listening to the Go Getter Showcase, a weekly podcast highlighting the elements of success within professional and entrepreneurial women from various industries in all walks of life. I'm your host, Lindsay Joseph. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful, marvelous, miraculous day. We are back. I know my content creation schedule has not been the best over the last few weeks. However, again, we are back. So today's guest is Patricia Timmons of Making Opportunities and Visualizing Empowerment, aka Move Inc. in Boston. So Patricia is an innovator and visionary in the education sector. She designs programs that enable youth to build their confidence and help place their footprint in the world. She earned a bachelor's in science in Developmental Psychology from Coppin State University, a Master of Education specializing in guidance counseling from Cambridge College, a graduate certificate in nonprofit management at Harvard University, and is currently pursuing her doctorate degree in higher education administration. As per her background, while a guidance counselor in the Boston public school system, Patricia began to recognize the urgent need for a more fulfilling educational experience in the youth that she encountered. She soon realized that she wanted to open a nonprofit to help address this need. So in 2011, she co-founded Making Opportunities Visualizing Empowerment Incorporated and started to build the curriculum around building global leaders in the 21st century. After getting the pieces together, she finally launched the program in 2014. In this episode, Patricia discusses her entire educational journey from being in special classes to pursuing her doctorate degree, starting Move Inc. and the different programs the nonprofit operates, the importance of having a teacher who took the time to evaluate her learning style, which led to the removal of previous labels attached to her, and what educators and administrators should do to improve the quality of education for every child. So this is a super interesting podcast episode for me, simply because everybody knows I'm a big education nerd and a career junkie. And so this kind of touches on both of those things. And so with that being said, here is Patricia. So thank you so much for being on the show today, Patricia. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Patricia Timmons. I have like three branches to myself, as I call it. So I am an executive director of a nonprofit called Move, Making Opportunities, Visualizing Empowerment Incorporated. I'm also a teacher's associate at Harvard University, the School of Government. And then my other branch is being a student myself. And that's just me on the professional end, but I'm also a mom and a wife as well.
Right. So talk about being a student and kind of what your college education has been so far.
My college education has been very diverse. I do have range of background going to a historically Black college and university. I did a dual degree with Coppin State and Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland. Then I went on to an adult education school at Cambridge College, and I did school guidance counseling there. So it was a big difference because now being like the youngest in the class and actually seeing the peers that were my age, I'm now at the point where my class can range from having someone who's 25 to having someone who's 80 years old. So that was a good shift and a good experience. And then eventually I went to an Ivy League school, which was a huge difference because coming from a historically Black college to an adult education, now coming to a point where someone who looked like me, we were accepted to a lot of Ivy Leagues back in the days, and now being in a pressure cooker to be the best that you can because of their historical legacy, and that's at Harvard University. And then now I'm at UMass Boston working on my doctorate. So it's a different range because now UMass Boston is like the state school. So state, adult education, Ivy League, historically Black college and university, I did it all. So I enjoy it because it hits a new challenge all the time. And I'm just working myself and bettering myself to overcome each challenge.
Awesome. So tell us about which degrees you got from what school, because we know what schools you went to and kind of like the diversity with the schools, but what is your actual education background?
So I started off with psychology. So I did developmental psychology in undergrad. I loved the psychology because that was the base of it. And I was really interested in education, but not in the teacher aspect. So I chose school guidance counseling, which I have received a master's of education at Cambridge College for school guidance counseling. Then I went to become a school guidance counselor and kind of dealt with like a lot of the bureaucracies and stuff in public schools. So then I went on to do nonprofit management at Harvard University. So received a post-grad certificate at Harvard University for nonprofit management. And now I am a doctoral student at UMass Boston in higher education, specializing in administration and student support services.
Great. So talk a little bit about your career and what kind of led you up to where you are to develop Move.
It's so funny. I started in healthcare. So if you look at the beginning of my resume, I started in trauma unit and working with a lot of general surgeons. What led me there is when I was in healthcare, I still drived myself to go into education. So I built internship programs with Brigham where I worked with a lot of high school kids where if they were interested in health careers, they come into our unit and I'm like the liaison between the student and the surgeon where they can go into the OR and see different procedures. They will see like post-care. So then that's what triggered me to say like, oh, okay, I'm really into grooming a student to reach their potential. So that would lead me into like the school guidance counseling and education when I came out of my undergrad years. So I focused on that and I moved into healthcare education and I did cardiovascular education, working with various underserved communities and youth on getting their blood pressure checked, checking their cholesterol and things like that, which led me into schools. That kind of aligned with graduating now with school guidance counseling because I was already working with schools on the healthcare aspect. And then that kind of grew where I saw things bigger than what schools were offering, and schools did not have the budget for it. So that decided for me to create a nonprofit outside of the school because my main focus was trying to make sure that the student reached their greatest potential. Taking like their smallest soft skill, taking their hidden talent, and really making them propel into what they want to be and going into that path. So from there, I built Move in 2011, and I partner up with some of the schools that I was already currently working with, being a school guidance counselor. We did some test trials, some pilot programs to see if the need was there. And from the results, the need was there. And from there, I never looked back. I kept on pushing Move and making sure it hit the mission of allowing students to become who they want to be and hit the greatest potential and become global leaders and become outstanding students. And that seemed like it was like a God-driven path for me to create Move and stay with Move.
Great. So tell us about some of the programs that you have operating under Move right now.
So right now we have about 4 to 5 programs. 2 of our most popular programs is one is the annual Youth Leadership Symposium for Girls. That consists of a one-day conference where young girls get to meet each other that they probably will never meet on a day-to-day basis, but they also get real workshops that they can hone skills and be able to apply them to the world, apply them to schools, apply them to home life. And it's a variation from having a professional development workshop to almost having just a personal development. So going into details with that, it can be something where they're trying to strengthen the skills that they already have, all the way going into something that's very detailed. If they love creative writing, how to turn your creative writing into a blog and make a profit. So, every year we have different women leaders, women entrepreneurs, just professional women in corporate offices, creative consultants to come in and really just help the kids out and really teach them and really bring that great spirit into the room. So that's one of the program. Our second program is She Boss Academy, and it's a 1-week intensive entrepreneurship summer camp where young girls learn about different aspects of entrepreneurship while building their business together as a group and being able to launch that business at the end of summer camp to earn summer cash. And then our other programs that we're still developing now, we have a great partnership with Box Out Enterprises where we are doing goal setting workshop. So that starts off where they learn about what is goal setting and what are SMART goals. From there, it goes into conversations with an accountability partner. So you are able to keep moving forward with your goals until you accomplish them. Until, from there, you are now putting all your goals into a vision board. So that kind of concludes it to know what is a goal, how can you be accountable to accomplish your goal, and to keep on moving with your vision, to keep on adding more goals to your life until you're fulfilled, I should say. So that is a new program that is going to be implemented this summer all the way through the next academic year. And we also have On the Move speaker series, where bi-monthly we have a different person to come and talk about their career. That is not like, we usually call it working out the box. So it's careers that are not the typical careers like doctors and lawyers and maybe teachers. We might go into being a radiology technician. Not many people know about that. It's a very fulfilling career. However, people don't know how to get there. So it's careers like that that's not always in the spotlight that young girls can get to hear and be exposed and learn more and get engaged on whether they might want to do that in the future. And lastly is our HBCU tour that we just launched this year, and we're going again next year. And we actually visit between 7 to 12 schools between Maryland all the way down to Virginia right now, where kids from Massachusetts and Rhode Island are able to explore historically Black colleges and universities, since there are actually none in the northern part up from the Maud-Dixon line. They are able to explore, get more information, learn just the culture of it, and know if they want to apply. And it's just really great because a lot of kids just now apply to schools without actually going on the campus to see if it's the right fit for them. So it's pretty much a great program because it helps expose them to culture. It helps them expose if the college is the right fit. And then also being like aware and engaged on just the whole college application process that comes with it. So those are our programs that we have right now. And we're just really proud of all the initiatives because we're able to target so many young girls across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and now entering Rhode Island.
Great. So you have quite a bit going on. So it seems as though you are focused on education, career, and entrepreneurship. So I know that there's a lot of debate right now about college, the return on investment in college, accumulating all the student debt just to work a job that, may not necessarily even pay all of the bills coming out of college and things like that. So what's your standpoint on whether somebody should attend college, trade school, or start a small business?
That is funny that, that's a good question. Trade school is there and I love it. Even the military component and also, education. I'm a firm believer that we have to assess the child to really see where they can aim at. Because if we really focus right now to say trade school is where it is because you're coming out of the school with no debt, that's great. But after graduation, if we pour so many people into trade schools, do we have the jobs to match? We have construction companies where they have to lay off a person 3 to 6 months. So we have to look at the aftermath. On the front end of trade school, yes, it might be a lower cost, But on the back end, when you graduate, are you secure with a job? Are you able to pay your bills? Because now you might be incurring debt if you can't find a job. And because we can't pour so many people in one sector, in one little box. So that's the reason why I'm a firm believer in assessing it, because also too, everyone's not capable of trade. You might not either have the skill, the passion, or the stamina in certain aspects of trade, where it can be electrician, carpentry, plumbing, so forth. It might not wake you up to want to go to work every day. So it's great to have a variety, whether you want to go into the 4-year, 2-year education route, trade, or military, because we have to fulfill these people to make them productive citizens after graduation and make sure they are secured with a job. So I love trade school. I love college, but we have to learn how to spread an entire form, whether it's the 3 branches, so we are able to have kids to secure a job and be able to pay bills. I mean, right now there was an article that came out of Google, because so many people are not in the STEM field right now. There's jobs that pay $125 an hour that they can't fill right now because people are not going into that. And it may be because people don't want to go to college because they don't think they can afford it. It's too costly for the family. However, if you do go in there and catch a loan and say if you want to be a strong engineer or mathematics with NASA, and you receive the skills, you are able to now fulfill those jobs that would easily pay back sometimes the loans, because essentially we have to look at college like an investment, just like if we are purchasing stocks and bonds. College is an investment. And I think if we don't look at college in that type of form, we will always think it's a burden. So it's more that we have to now educate and keep aware that you can have fun in college, but no college is investment. So try to research when you go into these careers, what is the post part of, am I able to have job security? Or if I'm able to go into entrepreneurship without feeling like it's too saturated that I can't jump up, or I just can't do it at all. So I think college and trade school are equivalent. The problem is that we have to make sure the students are assessed and well aware what's the path for them to go into either college or trade.
Great. And I think that's an excellent answer, because what most people don't know is I actually went to hair school right out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just because I didn't have plans lined up for college, just because of all the stuff that I was going through. It was definitely not for me. I got through because I was pregnant at some point. So I had dropped out twice, ended up going back a third time, and then ended up getting pregnant. So it's like, okay, well, I have to do something because I'm about to have a child and I'm like 18. So,
exactly.
And I would say that it cost me probably about I think the loan that I actually signed off for was about $11,000,
Mm-hmm.
Which at the end of the day, I've been in school ever since. And so that's still a deferred loan. So when you calculate interest and stuff like that, it honestly cost me more to go to trade school than it did to get my bachelor's degree after you add in grants and things like that. So trade school was actually more costly than for me to get my bachelor's degree, factoring the fact that I went to community college for the first 2 years and then transferred into my bachelor's degree program at the last 2 years at a state school. And I only worked in the salon for maybe about 18 months too. And so honestly, I probably owe more to go to hair school than I ever made as a hairdresser. And another factor to that too is it was like in 2008, 2009. So that was kind of like during the recession. So you had a mix of, people coming out of high school not really sure what they want to do, and then people who had been laid off and were kind of looking for a new career. So it was honestly probably about 50-50 at that point. And I've talked to people who have gone to hair school since then, and they say it's not like that anymore, but it was just people who got laid off and were looking for something. But the statistics in the hair industry is that for every 100 beauty school graduates, only about one of them is probably doing hair 5 years after they graduate. And I saw that with my own eyes, because probably about less than a year after I graduated, I ended up going to community college down the street. And I saw probably like 5 or 6 people from my class, in hair school who were now attending community college because the hair thing didn't work out.
Wow.
And so I think that what you said is important because a lot of people don't look at the nuance. I think a lot of people are just kind of fed up with the brokenness of the college system in the United States.
Correct.
And kind of like the promises or the entitlement that people, once thought that college had, now that everyone's educated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone has a degree and it's basically the barrier to entry. And so, now you have people who are going straight for their master's degree programs, whereas traditionally a master's was something that you got after you already started your career and you were a couple years into already graduating with your undergrad degree.
But even when you bring the statistics up with, the hair school, it's pretty much going back, like you said, like the 11,000 versus, you feel like you paid more at a trade school. And I think it's just more, it's the breakdown between when you leave out of high school and go to college. We don't take college or trade school as an investment and really break that down, because a lot of people go to college or trade school and say, I think I want to do that. And we have to now figure out how can we move from the think to I know I want to do that, because A, B, and C. You go to college sometimes. I'm in Massachusetts, so I'll just use a couple of some of the state schools. I'm going to go to this nearby state school because I believe that's what I'm supposed to do, instead of going into the fact that I'm trying to work at, Google. So I need to do engineering and mathematics. I need to look at the type of classes I need to take. I think it's because a lot of people don't know what college is all about, or might need a little bit of assistance in between before they go to college to figure out whether it's jobs, whether it's career shadowing. It's like, if you don't know, you can't get there. So I think that indecisiveness sometimes lead to the financial woes.
Right. That's a really good point. And I think this is advice that my generation got from our parents, because that's how it used to be, like in the 80s. You would go to college, that would give you a leg up in the world, and you'd be able to go off and find a job. And that's not necessarily the case, because like I already said, we currently have the most educated population that we've ever had. And so now you have an oversaturation of people with college degrees, and a lot of people getting college degrees and majors that don't necessarily lead to the best paying positions at the end of the day. And then people just think because they have a college degree, they're going to have that leg up. And then they come to realize that it's not really like that, especially when you have higher cost of living where the wages aren't necessarily keeping up with that as well. When you have women getting married later in life than ever before because they are trying to put their careers first, but then you are struggling because, you really do need two incomes to support a sustainable household in certain parts of the country, especially the Northeast, which is really abundant with careers. And that's just the truth of the matter. And so, the other good point that you made was you were talking about engineering roles and things like that, and how there's not enough people to fill that gap. And that's been an issue that even the Obama administration tried to address years and years and years ago. And the other thing is I'm a technical recruiter, so I see that every day in my job where you're trying to find these unicorns that these tech companies want, and they're just very hard to find. A lot of people don't talk about diversity in tech. They say that it's very male and white dominated. I would honestly disagree with that. I would say that you have a lot of, Indian and Asian people who kind of dominate that tech field because that's just what they go to school for.
Correct.
Their culture is really based around, at least with the Indian culture, because I do work with quite a few Indians and we've talked about it before. Their whole thing is there's this huge push in India, like you're going to become a doctor. And if you're not good enough to become a doctor, you become an engineer who still makes like 200, 300K a year.
Correct.
If you're not good enough. As going back to what we were just talking about, where in America, it's just kind of like, go to college and figure it out afterwards. And so there's kind of like this push to plan your career from a younger age in other parts of the world, the eastern part of the world, even Africa too, because what I do see is a lot of African Americans who are in these tech fields, a lot of them are from Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Or they were military and, it was kind of like a focus. They had like a technical focus in the military. And then when they were able to transition back to the civilian world, they were able to get really good paying jobs in the tech field. So kind of like even what you said about the military being a path to that, oftentimes we don't discuss.
Correct.
That is just the truth of the matter, is that Americans don't necessarily plan for their careers the way that the other people in the other parts of the world do, that make them more successful.
Mm-hmm.
And then generation ahead of the millennials, they were in a situation where they could just get a college degree and figure it out on the back end. Whereas that's not necessarily the case right now. And then when you talk about even minority students, which is really your focus, a lot of them are first generation and they just have no clue like what to do, because there is nobody who came before them to be able to get that degree and then be able to say, this is what you do. It's just kind of like, I want to see you go to college, no matter what it costs, no matter this, no matter that. They just think that you're going to be successful, because even my mom's generation kind of came from that, generation where it was just like, I just want to see you graduate from high school, because a lot of them before then didn't even have the opportunity to do that.
And that's pretty much right on the money. And going back into, looking at other parts of the nation of, they kind of have a focus. I think what's lost a little bit now that we always define when we are an adult is like, what is our purpose? What is our strong why? And we figure that that's what you're supposed to be as an adult. And we need to bring that back into adolescence to say that, what is your why? Why you feel like you're here? What is the purpose? Because I think that will help them to determine really what they want to do. I think we don't put a strong purpose and a why when we talk about college. Usually when people go into the medical field, you will hear a why. It's usually, I want to help other people. Maybe my grandmother had diabetes and now I want to kind of look into the whole diabetes and see how we can overcome this. However, when you look at other fields, usually a lot of kids, especially our minority kids, they don't have that purpose and that why to connect them to a field so they can just have a tunnel vision and be able to accomplish it. You have a few, but we need to increase that, because I think that's what's pretty much what's missing of connecting college education or trade, being successful, and really just doing good in school and knowing that when I finish, I know what my endpoint is.
Right. So another thing too that I want to ask a question about is, how do people or the students who are involved with MOVE, how do they typically get connected to your organization?
It's usually through school systems. At this point, because we've been doing this between 5 or 6 years, we are connected to a lot of city districts across the Commonwealth of Mass. So it's pretty much the guidance counselors always give the information to the parents and the students. We also work with a lot of parent councils or the parent and teacher organizations at respective schools. Also, we do informational sessions. We host 2 open houses throughout the calendar year. And then it's our social media and website. If they see an event in Eventbrite, they're emailing saying, can I attend? Can I do this? The great part of MOVE is that we're not really a membership-based organization. It's very inclusive for everyone. We're not an exclusive group where it's like, well, you got to pay into membership. It's more so that way you have more flexibility to say, okay, I just want to do the youth leadership symposium and I don't want to do that. So you work with your guidance counselor, you talk with the parents, you come to our open houses, or you go on our social media pages or our website. And that's pretty much how we tap into the different areas and work with these adolescents.
Right. So tell us about a pivotal moment in your life that you believe kind of made you the person that you are. So let's switch gears and talk a little bit more about you as opposed to just the organizations and your career and all these other things that you're involved in.
I had so many experiences going into education that I can now understand kids now, and I try to go there. So when I started school, I already kind of had a disadvantage a little bit. So I was born, with a cleft lip and palate. One, a lot of minority families and communities still don't know what a cleft lip and palate is. So it's a little deformity. in the face that I had to learn how to deal with. However, you walk into a school with peers, you look kind of different. It was the bullying from a lot of the students that helped me to have tough skin because it was a lot. Then on the same end, I kind of had a little bit of a disadvantage with teachers because I was a little bit behind on certain things. I had so many labels on me. So it started off where they felt like I couldn't really read. I couldn't really write well. So they placed me in a lot of Title I special needs courses. As I was moving into education, it was slapped on with another label to say I was dyslexic. So now having about 4 to 5 labels going into education and also having some bullying, it was hard. It was to the point by 4th grade, I didn't think I would complete school at all. The confidence level wasn't there because there was no solutions how to deal with all the issues that I was dealing with. It was more slapping problems. Then it was the thing where I had a lot of teachers who were not raised or grew up in neighborhoods that I grew up in. So it was a belief where maybe all this is happening because she grew up in a housing project. It was that label that I'm a housing project kid. That's the reason why I can't really read, can't really write. That's why I'm dyslexic. So it still was not solutions, but it was putting another label to solve the problem in their minds without helping me. That ran through all the way to middle school. And until I had a great teacher, Miss Monica Smalls, who took a little narrow and had a microscope a little bit more on me to kind of say, why am I looking at a file where this girl has so many labels? So as she started working with me more and more, the label started to, rip off because she noticed that I can read. But if you put me on like a timer, I was a little anxious. So it kind of shut me down more. When the timer kind of went away, I had awards and stuff where I was above the rest of my class when it came to reading. She made me practice and noticed that I had the skill set of becoming an excellent writer. I was very creative. I had a great thought process on how to unlock my stories. So when she started to unravel, what was coming back in was like this fluid of confidence running through my soul to say, I can do this, and I started not to see the marks that was given to me on my body anymore. So I was able to look at myself to say, I'm just not like everyone else. I am who I am, and I can strive to be my best. I can't strive to be what everyone thinks should be my best. Working with her, and I'm still in touch with her now, she allowed me to know that I don't fit in a box. I fit in my own world, and I'm able to do the things that I can do without limitation if I put my own mind to it. So that became a great experience for me because I really didn't think I was going to make it out of school. I really thought with the pressures of bullying and having so many labels, I was going to be not here. And I mean like physically, because all that can be a burden to you. It can mess you up physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And coming home almost crying daily as a young kid, it was like, I need to give up with everything. I need to just give up on life. So I have to thank Monica Smalls because she made me see a different perspective of who I am as a student, as a person, as a young girl trying to become a young woman in this world. And really, when I received my degrees, I emailed her a copy for each one because I wouldn't receive that if she did not become my education nurse by taking off all my Band-Aids that were given to me such a young kid and going through education in the public schools. So that was just a pivotal moment in my life that a shining light kind of got it on her to help me to become now a survivor. So now I feel like I'm a survivor where I had labels, but I was able to take them off like Band-Aids. I was bullied by my peers, but I was able to know who I am and to know that whatever I have is not going to change, and have confidence now. So I started to be stronger in other aspects of my whole life where I owned who I am. I owned what was given to me. I owned even the gifts that were given to me, and I took it and I flew and I survived. And so that right there kind of allowed me to have glasses and goggles of how to see kids now coming into school and how I can be a help to them.
Great. So with all that said, I think it's very important that you are able to, like when you said that you had sent your degrees to your teacher, like to remind people who are there for you, because sometimes it really is just that one person who can make so much of a difference in your life. And it's imperative to have those people because, where could you have been in a system that is just kind of used to, perpetuating, okay, well, this is what's on paper, so this is how we're going to treat this child. And how much, had that continued from middle school into high school, how would that have affected the way that you had gone to college, or if you even did attempt to go to college. So it's so important that there are these people who see what you're capable of being beyond just what they're told, because especially with the education system too, these teachers are overwhelmed. Teachers are overwhelmed and they're just trying to get through the day and teach the curriculum to meet the standards that they're supposed to meet for their own performance reviews. And so a lot of teachers, they can't take out the time, or they feel as though they can't take out the time to do that. So with all that being said, how do you feel as though that what you've created with Move kind of reflects your own personal experience?
What I see with students that come through Move is the disconnect. That's kind of what I felt with my experience, was that, there were times that you tried to connect with certain staff or your teachers or someone, and it was no connect. I felt, coming from, a housing project, most of these kids are coming from crime-infested, drug-infested, violence-infested neighborhoods. And the whole thing is that being so young, you don't think you always need motivation, everything to survive. So, as I call it, I see their invisible backpack that when I had that backpack, a lot of people didn't see when I was entering schools. They saw my physical, that you can see backpack, but I had an invisible backpack layered on that because I was going through all this trauma, all this bullying, all this, labeling that kind of disrupts our learning, because if students can't digest all this information when they have so much other things going on before they even enter the building. So, with Move, that's our strongest thing, is really trying to build a connection and build trust, because that is what a lot of students that we deal with feel like they are lacking. They don't trust adults. So they are not going to sit and tell them what's really going on. Because if they are able to release some of that pain, they are ready to process and digest other things that can make their life in a more positive light. But some of them have these invisible backpacks that it's time for us to now put on goggles where we can see those backpacks and really try to get a handle on these students so they can become our future leaders, our future entrepreneurs, our future politicians. Because other than that, they are slowly feeling, a lot of sorrow and pain inside of them at such a young age. And as for Move, we're trying to be that supplemental resource to schools to try to be that trusting partner with students, because it's needed for them to survive. And that's just not school, just to survive, period.
Right. So what would be your piece of advice for these schools as far as being able to, take the time to examine children when there's so much pressure on them from administration and parents and this, that, the next thing. And a lot of these teachers, as we know, aren't necessarily even compensated the way that they're supposed to be, and just the amount of stress and burnout they deal with. So what would be your piece of advice for teachers when dealing with, children who might be labeled certain things, but in all honesty, if somebody just looked at them, or they got a second observation, or they really were just paying attention to more of their intuition, they would see that, maybe something is not adding up?
I mean, my advice would really go to the administrators because, as you stated before, teachers are kind of boxed in where they're not able to be teachers like how teachers used to be way back in the days where you're able to see the vision in your class and try to create and execute this plan. As administrators, we have to realize that teachers are human beings. We have to give them the mindfulness and the tools that are needed to be able to be the best teachers that they are. It's not what they can be. They are the best teachers. They received their education. They had the passion, because everyone know across the United States is that teachers are not paid well. So for them to go into this industry, I feel like they are the best teachers already. However, more support needs to be behind the teachers and allow them to have a creative expression, because if they have the creative expression, I think they are able to unlock some of the pain, trauma, not putting on labels so much on students, and being able to make education and fun come together so students can enjoy themselves while they're learning. Because it's so much going on where teachers are now not just teachers. Teachers are now everything else. They're the custodians. They're sometimes the mothers. Sometimes they play the principal. They have so many titles that my advice is the administrators to take heed on, the teachers and really try to take care of them so they're able to take care of the kids. It's almost like a domino effect. If we crumble and allow teachers not to be their creative selves, then their light is dim and they're not going to, shine so bright so the students can become our diamonds. And as far as the teachers, if I did have any advice, I will say just really kind of be advocates for themselves and for their students, and to know if things are not working, talk to administration, because I know everything is by the book now. So they have to follow a book because of the standardized tests and so on. But if you see that education is not working in the classroom, I think it needs to be a conversation, and hopefully the administration is open-minded to hear what's going on.
Great. As we begin to wrap up, talk about a piece of advice that you would give to somebody who's kind of like you, somebody who went through the path of being labeled, then, was able to graduate with all these different degrees and then go on to, hold a career, be able to start your own nonprofit organization, be able to have a family, and even help your daughter with some of the things that she does. Because I know she does t-shirts.
Yeah.
I've seen the Girl Scout cookies being sold on Facebook Live and all that other stuff. So talk about what piece of advice you would give to somebody who is kind of like a reflection of you.
The advice I would get is that don't hold your emotions in. Let it go. Even if you have to cry, I think the conversation is never open about crying. Crying releases a lot of things and makes some room for you to think. So be able to just let go, let flow, but also find a person where they are your soundboard for everything. And at the end, when you cry, make sure you walk back out the door and don't fall back. Keep on releasing, but always get up and always keep on pushing forward.
Great. So how do we follow you and Move and all the other great things that you're doing online?
Yeah, so we have a website. So if you go to www.movebostoninc.org, MOVEBOSTONINC.org. We're also on Facebook with Move Boston Inc. So Facebook.com/Move Boston Inc. We're also on Instagram as well as Move Boston. So between those, that's how you can get in contact with us. You can also email me at ptimmons@movebostoninc.org.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And there you have have it. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Go Getter Showcase. Please make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Also, check out the Greater Now membership program for a number of perks, including a bonus semi-exclusive podcast episode, as well as our rewards program where you can earn points for engaging with our content. You can find that at www.mygreaternow.com/membership. Until next time, take care.